Today I'm going to be taking a look at yet another Arch-based Linux distribution. Today I'm going to be taking a look at Namib GNU/Linux. This will be a first impression install and review, as I've never actually taken a look at Namib before. It's a rather new Linux distribution. I've only recently become aware of it. Several of the channel viewers have requested it in both comments, and I had one guy email me about Namib. So I thought I'll take a look at it. It's been a while since I reviewed an Arch-based Linux distribution. So Namib GNU/Linux, GNU/Linux, is an Arch-based Linux distribution that aims at being easy to install and user-friendly. Let's take a look at their website here. The web address is namib.meerkat.tk. I'll link in the description the web address. It's kind of a strange web address. I'm not sure the .tk extension, what country of origin that is. Reading a little bit from their website, Namib is fast and simple. It's Arch Linux made simple. Every Arch Linux-based distribution claims to be Arch made simple, though what makes Namib stand out from the crowd? We'll see. The Calamares installer. I like the Calamares installer. Same installer, I believe, that Manjaro uses, and a lot of other Arch-based Linux distributions use. The Calamares is a fantastic installer. They offer, it looks like, 4 different desktops: XFCE, Mate, KDE, and GNOME. Of course, we get a bunch of pre-installed apps, of course. That's part of being user-friendly, is having some stuff pre-installed, of course. Let's see, if I go to features, resource efficient, friendly community, latest software, of course, being rolling release, easy setup, runs everywhere, highly customizable. Pretty much every Linux distribution on the planet could make claim to most of these, though. So I'm not sure exactly what makes Namib special. On their downloads page, it looks like we have, of course, Mate, KDE, GNOME, XFCE. Mate is highlighted. That may be their flagship edition. I'm not sure, but that is going to be the one I download because it's the one that's first in the list. So I'm assuming that's the one that they consider their flagship edition. So I'm going to download this ISO and install this inside a virtual machine. Okay. And go ahead and see if I can full screen here. Alright. So I downloaded the ISO. The ISO was 1.5 gigs in size. Our boot menu here, we have boot Namib, boot existing OS, run memtest, hardware info, reboot, and power off. Just going to go ahead and boot directly into the live environment. May take a few minutes to boot into the live environment. It always takes a little time running off the ISO. You guys doing this on physical hardware, you would be running this off a live USB stick. They can be a little sluggish. Again, it's not an actual physical install yet until you run through the installer and reboot the machine. Still waiting for our Mate desktop to load up here. Okay. All right. Pretty nice looking desktop. Nice wallpaper. The Calamares installer starts by default. You didn't have to click on the icon or search through a menu. I really like that. Yeah, I'm kind of digging that. Anyway, you guys have probably seen the Calamares installer a million times. So I'm just going to quickly run through this. Language, English US, has already been chosen for me. I just click Next. Time zone, New York. That's the Eastern time zone in the US. I'm actually in the Central time zone, so I'm going to click over to Chicago. Click Next. English US has been chosen for my keyboard. I can test that out in this test field. Everything's working correctly. Partitioning. We can erase disk and let Namib do its automatic partitioning, or we can choose manual partitioning and create the partitions ourselves. I'm going to just choose the erase disk option and let Namib do automatic partitioning. I created a 15 gig hard drive on this virtual machine. We need to create our user. DT will be my username. We need to create a password for the DT user. It needs to be a long and complicated password for privacy reasons. We have the option of logging in automatically without being asked for a password. I don't tick that on. Use the same password for the administrator account. I do leave that one ticked on. That way I don't have to remember two different passwords. One password for my home user, one password for my root user. They're the same password. The summary screen, location is correct. Keyboard is correct. Partition scheme looks good. I'm just going to go ahead and click next. All right. And it's writing to the disk. Once you get to this point of a Linux install, it usually takes somewhere between 5 and 10 minutes to complete. So I'm going to pause the video. I'll be back. All right, the installation has completed. When you complete an installation using the Calamares installer, what you need to do is go down here to the bottom left. You need to click Restart Now, then click Done, and it will reboot your machine. You guys doing this on physical hardware, if you got the live USB stick still in the machine, this is where you need to unplug it on the reboot. And that's what I'm going to do right now. All right, so I'm rebooting my freshly installed Namib GNU /Linux. Let's go ahead and see if we can switch to a full screen view. And one thing, you guys watching this on the video, I do apologize about having the border around the window. I just recently did a fresh install of Manjaro's i3 edition, although this is not the i3 window manager, this is the Xmonad window manager. And I really should have configured it in a way where these open box windows open without the border, the highlighted border around them. So I do apologize. I will try to fix that in future videos, though. I'll get that straightened out. Today is my first day of living full-time in Xmonad in many years. For the last 2 weeks, you guys that have been following the channel know I've been using Qtile on my main machine, on Arch. I recently switched over to Manjaro and Xmonad, living in a tiling window manager called Xmonad on Manjaro. Really enjoying my time living in tiling window managers and using command line apps. But that's not the topic today. The topic today is Namib GNU /Linux. This is 1708, their Mate edition. Let's take a look at what is installed by default here in Namib, their Mate edition. Let's go through the menu, the Mate menu here. And we have our archive manager. See what archive manager they're using. I rarely take a look at the archive managers when I do these reviews because they're not that interesting programs. They're for basically zip, unzip, tar, those kinds of files. And this one is taking a long time to load up. Whatever archive manager that was, I don't think it launched. That is very strange. Let's see if I can launch it again. It says starting archive manager down here in the taskbar. That's not a good sign when the very first program you try to launch is not launching. You know what? 568 available updates. So the ISO is a little old. This is an Arch-based distro, so it's rolling release, so I actually need to update the system before I do the review. So let me pull up a terminal and run an update, and then I'll come back and do the proper review. Okay guys, so I'm back. One thing of note, that update was almost 600 packages, and that thing took like almost half an hour. It was a very long update. And then, of course, I needed to reboot the machine because there was kernel updates and everything else. So I rebooted the VM. And when I come back, the theming is nothing like it was earlier. Different wallpaper, different Mate theme. It looks like maybe a different icon set. Nothing is like it was. I'm not sure if that is something the Namib developers planned, if it's some upgrade, some package upgrade with Namib itself. I'm not sure, but I'm going to go through the menu here, and now I'm going to go to accessories. I'm going to open Archive Manager, and now it actually launches. So doing that update did fix some things. This is File Roller, I believe. It looks like GNOME's Archive Manager. Yep. Archive Manager 3.28.0. It's actually called File Roller. It's the name of the program. And Archive Manager for GNOME. And that's for your zip and unzip. We have our character map. We have the Ngrandpa Archive Manager. 2 archive managers on the ISO. That makes no sense. The Ngrandpa archive manager is the archive manager for Mate, version number 1.20, 1.20. So, Namib developers, get rid of one of these archive managers. That makes absolutely no sense why you would put 2 different archive managers on your ISO. We have HP device manager also under accessories. We have the Mate calculator. We have the Mate font viewer, the Mate search tool for searching for files. We have Parcelite, which is our clipboard. This is our clipboard down here in the little sys tray. We have the Pluma text editor, your standard text editor, plain text editor. This is the default text editor in the Mate desktop. This is Pluma 1.20.1. Also, under accessories, we have our screenshot utility. Under education, we have LibreOffice Math. Under graphics, we have Eye of Mate image viewer. We have GIMP, the GNU image manipulation program. Looks like they're on GIMP 2.8, which GIMP is getting very close to their next big release. I know there's already some release candidates out. I guess this is the latest stable version, though, 2.8.22. Graphics, we have LibreOffice Draw and Mate Color Selection. Under Internet, we have the Avahi server. We have Firefox as our default browser. And if it's using the latest Firefox, this would be Quantum. Let's see, if we go to the menu, go to Help, and About Firefox. You have version 59.0.2. This is Firefox Quantum. Let's close all these tabs. Also under Internet, Thunderbird for our email, Mozilla Thunderbird. We have Transmission, which is the BitTorrent client and the GNOME desktop environment. Under Office, we have Atril for our document viewer for viewing PDFs. And we have the entire LibreOffice suite. Base, Calc, Draw, Impress, Math, and Writer. Let's see, LibreOffice 5. Let's see what version number LibreOffice is on now. We go to Help, About LibreOffice. This is version 5.4.6.2. LibreOffice. The LibreOffice suite is probably one of the most popular free and open source programs in the world, if not the most popular. Things like Firefox and LibreOffice are really kind of like the highlights of the free and open source software world. Even people on Windows run things like Firefox and LibreOffice. They don't know they're running free software. They just think, well, you know, it's a good program. Under sound and video, we have Bracero for our disk burning utility. This is the standard CD and DVD disk burning utility in the GNOME desktop environment. Not really a necessary program to have on the ISO anymore. Most computers now don't even come with optical drives. Very few people burn CDs or DVDs anymore, so you could probably drop that one from the ISO. GNOME MPV is our video player. Nice, lightweight video player. We have MPV Media Player here, another video player. I think MPV is a dependency of GNOME. MPV is why they both are listed here. We have the Pulse Audio volume control. We have the Qt V4L2 test utility. We have Rhythm Box for our default audio player, our music player. This is the default music player in the GNOME desktop environment. Fantastic audio player, though. The Mate desktop environment typically incorporates a lot of GNOME utilities in it because Mate is actually a fork of GNOME. It was a fork of the old GNOME 2 desktop. Also under sound and video we have sound, which is basically your sound preferences. Similar to the Pulse Audio volume control tool as well. Under system tools we have the Avahi browser. We have Kaja. Kaja is the file manager here. Kaja 1.20.2, your standard file manager in the Mate desktop environment. We have Gparted. Gparted is a partition manager. It's not something you really need to play around with once you actually have a system installed. You really don't want to be messing around editing your partitions. The reason it's installed, though, is if you were using this as a live disk, Gparted is a very important program to have on a live disk if you were trying to rescue a system. We have our log file viewer under System Tools. We have Manage Printing. We have the Mate Disk Usage Analyzer, the Mate System Monitor. Let's take a look at the System Monitor. CPU and memory. Let's let it settle down for a second. CPU usage, pretty low, single-digit percentages. I only gave this virtual machine 1 core of my 6-core CPU, so I didn't give it very many resources at all, and I only gave this VM 2 gigs of RAM. Normally I give my VMs 4 or sometimes 6 gigs of RAM. Only gave this one 2 gigs of RAM. It's using 600 megabytes. So Mate is definitely not a resource hog. That's one of the great things about Mate is it's kind of middle of the road on resource usage, kind of lightish. And it looks good. You know, it looks like a modern desktop. And it's very configurable. The terminal is, of course, the Mate terminal. I don't know why the default color scheme, though, is black text on a white background. I know, you know, it's a minor kind of gripe, but it's so easy to change the colors in your terminal. I wish the Namib developers would come up with a better color scheme in the terminal than, you know, just black on white. And that's not somebody that spends a lot of time in the terminal. I know most of you guys probably don't spend that much time in the terminal. All right, well, under System Tools, we also have Power Stats, Places. Under the Places category, this is just our directory structure. This just opens up various bookmarks, basically, in our file manager. So we have a bookmark for, like, the Documents folder here. So this opens up the Kaja file manager in the Documents folder. Then we have a System category. We have Preferences, which has your standard stuff. Various hardware preferences for Bluetooth display, keyboard, mouse, power management, internet. We have our firewall config, network config. Under look and feel, we have appearance, main menu, which is editing the Mate menu here, screensaver, Windows. And then we have a personal category, about me, assistive technologies, file management, preferred apps, and startup applications, which are those apps that start up automatically when you first log in. Under administration, we have add remove software. Let's see. What is add remove software? All right. So this is basically your GUI package manager. You can search by category. You can also search by name if you wanted to type a name. So if I wanted to install something like, I don't know, the Ranger file manager, which I know is in the Arch repos, right here, I could just tick that on here. I would hit apply and it would install. I'm not going to bother doing that on camera, but good little GUI package manager for those of you that would prefer having a graphical package manager rather than doing everything in the command line. We have our LightDM greeter settings. This is for changing the LightDM login greeter, you know, where you type in your username and password to log in. This would be where you would go to like change the background and things like that. Control Center, basically Control Center is basically listing everything that was already in these menus. So you had the preferences and administration menus. Basically, this is all that stuff just in one window here. And then we have our our lock screen. We have our logout, which just logs me out back to LightDM to log in as another user or to log in to another session if I have more than one desktop environment installed. We have our shutdown button as well. I'm going to right click on the desktop. Change desktop background. Let's see what backgrounds are available for me to choose from here. It looks like this is the standard Mate wallpaper pack that you find, you know, in everybody's repos. The Mate wallpaper pack is in the Debian repos, the Ubuntu repos, the Arch repos. Really nice wallpaper pack, but I've seen all these wallpapers before. So many Mate distros, this is all they ship with, is just the standard Mate wallpaper pack. And while they are nice, I would prefer something a little more unique. Anyway, because of this light background, or light theme, light panel, light windows, and the green icons, that dark background with some green highlighting actually works really nice. Themes. If I click on the Themes tab here, we have the option of Custom, Black Mate, which is a black theme, which is nice, but black themes do not work well with dark wallpapers. We have Blue Menta, And that's not a bad looking theme. Blue Submarine. It's kind of interesting. We have the New Mix theme installed down here. I like the New Mix theme. This would be really, really nice. The theme will not look as intended because the required icon theme, New Mix, is not installed, so we would need to install the New Mix icon theme. You know what? I'm just going to go back to whatever the default was. I think they were using Menta by default, or at least it was using Menta by default after I did that massive update of the system. Then we have fonts, interface. I'm not going to mess with any of that. If I choose a theme and choose the Customize button here, we have options of changing the window controls, the window borders, the icon themes. The icon themes installed by default are the hideous Adwaita icon set, which is the default GNOME icon set. I hate that thing. We have the ARC icons, which are really nice. The Mate icon set, the Mate Fienza icon set, Menta, and New Mix is listed here, but it's not installed. We need to install that one if we wanted to use the New Mix theme. And that pretty much wraps up what is actually on the ISO here for Namib Mate. Let me open up the terminal one more time. I'm actually going to check, see what kernel version we're on after the update. You know what? So you guys can actually see this better, I'm actually going to zoom in a little bit. The other thing I'm going to do is pick better colors than white on black. Let's see, edit, profiles. Actually, that's not the one. I wanted to go to profile preferences right here. Go to colors, and even if the developers didn't want to like create their own custom theme, there's some really good built-in ones here in the the Mate terminal. Solarized, for example, really nice. Did I not set that right? I chose Solarized. Oh, we need to tick off Use Colors from Theme. Yeah, okay. And now we have a better terminal theme. Anyway, if I do a uname-r 4.16.3, very, very recent kernel release. Of course, in Arch, you always have the option of installing a LTS kernel and staying on that if you want to. So what are my thoughts on Namib? I'm not sure what purpose Namib serves, to be honest. What is the difference between Namib GNU/Linux, their Mate edition, and Antergos and Mate? Or the Manjaro Mate edition, which is a community respin of Manjaro, but it's really nice. Or one of, I don't know, a dozen other Arch-based distros out there with the Mate desktop. They're all the same, if you're, in my opinion. What does Namib offer as far as an easy installer that Manjaro, Antergos, Swag, and 100 other Arch-based Linux distros don't offer? It's the same Calamares installer so many of them use. This really seems like a duplication of effort, in my opinion. I'm not sure why I would run Namib rather than something like Antergos, for example. I'm not sure why anybody would recommend someone to run Namib rather than something like Antergos or Manjaro or whatever. So, in my opinion, I think it's a great distro as far as, it functions. The install was easy. The desktop looks good. It has everything you want in a Linux distro. I'm just not sure why someone bothered to create it. Viewing their website, also, I couldn't figure that out because, it was a lot of the standard cookie cutter kind of language. We wish to make Arch simple. Okay. Every Arch-based Linux distribution wants to make Arch simple, and a lot of them succeed in it. What are you doing differently than some of those other ones that are already succeeding at making Arch simple? So, anyway, I think Namib is an interesting project. I'll keep taking a look at it, keep following it. May review some other versions of it down the road as it matures as a project. Before I go, I do want to do a special thanks to all my patrons, all my Patreon supporters. AK, Ron, Mr. Neelypops, John, Brian, Carl, Greg, Carlos, Rob, Matt, Darkwin, Mark, Christian, Jake, Benjamin, Steven, Marcus, Interceptor, and Bob Wright. You guys rock. You guys help make this show possible. Peace, guys.